Hello everyone, welcome to Jolly Molly TV. Today we're going to work on another cute block in Kimberbell's Red, White, and Bloom quilt or wall hanging project. Today we're going to work on this block right here, which is called Fire Up the Grill. Isn't that going to be cute with that little hot dog button? So go ahead and grab your plastic pouch system or plastic zip bag system where you have labeled Fire Up the Grill. And let's take that over to the embroidery machine and let's get started making this fun block. Okay, we are at the machine. So I have gone ahead and put a piece of poly no-show mesh stabilizer into my hoop. Now for video purposes, I'm choosing to use my 8x8 hoop on my Embroidery machine only because it's a little bit easier for you to see on camera when everything is flat. But you can go down and use your 5x7 hoop for this block. The Fire Up the Grill block, when it's finished, is going to be 6.5 by 6.5 inch square, but the actual embroidery size is 4.73 inches by 4.84 inches. So the embroidery itself will fit on a 5x7 hoop. So go ahead and pick the desired hoop size you like. Put a piece of the poly no-show mesh stabilizer in it and put white thread up on the top of your machine. Now we're going to switch to the screen camera and let's load the design on the machine. Okay, so I again have a Embroidery machine just for reference in case you have something similar, but you're going to load the design on your machine. I'm going to click Embroidery. I'm going to go to the flash drive because I keep all my files on a flash drive. I'm also now going to go to a folder that I've called Red, White, and Blue. Okay, now we are quilting as we go. So I want to load the quilting design first before I load the embroidery design. So I have them in a separate folder called Quilting. Now this finished block is a 6.5 by 6.5 inch squared when we're all done. So I want to pick a quilting design size that is just shy of that 6.5 by 6.5 inch, which would be a 6 by 6. I'm using the plaid for this entire project because I think that would be really cool. So I brought up a plaid quilting design that is 6 by 6, and it says it's 6.5 by 6.5 because that is going to include the tack down stitch. So this is the perfect size for the block that we're doing, the Fire Up the Grill. So I'm going to click Set. It's brought it in, everything looks good, and now I'm going to click Add. Now if you don't have the ability to click Add on your machine to add a second design, don't worry. What you'll do is you'll stitch out the quilting design, you'll clear it from your machine, and then you'll bring in the embroidery design that we're doing right now, and then you'll stitch that out. But if you have the ability to add designs on top of designs, it's just one little step faster. Okay, back to the flash drive. Back to the flash drive, back to Red, White, and Bloom. And now I am looking for the Fire Up the Grill. Here it is here, Fire Up the Grill. I'm going to click on that. This is going to be fun. All right, it looks good. I don't want to move it or do anything. I'm going to click Set. And if you see what the screen has done, I know some of you can't see the bottom part, but look at the top part here. You can see the quilting design underneath, and then the Fire Up the Grill is on top. We don't want to move it. It's perfectly centered. Everything's good. Now we're just going to click Embroidery. And now we're ready to go. So let's go back to the machine. And again, we've got white thread up on top because we're going to stitch out the placement line for the batting. So are we ready to go? Let's go. Okay, so we got the placement line down. Now I've got my batting, and I'm just using a piece of Warm and Natural batting, which is kind of my go-to batting for all my projects. And I've cut a piece, I think this is 9 inches square, so it covers all the placement line. Now I'm going to put the foot down, hold it in place, or you can tape it down if you like, and let's tack down the batting. Okay, so now I want to take the hoop off the machine, and we're going to go over to the table, and I want to trim away all of this excess batting. All right, so we've got that all trimmed up nicely. Now we're back at the machine. I still have white thread up on top. Now let's go ahead and start the machine. We're going to do a placement line for the fabric. So now I'm going to lay down my fabric, make sure that I cover all those placement lines. And mind you, I've got the back of my background fabric fused with either the SF101 or I used the Palon 860. It just supports your cotton fabric and eliminates the puckers that are going to show up on the block if there's too many stitches. So I always fuse the background pieces. That way I don't have puckers. So it's looking good. I've got it surrounding with a good cushion on all the placement lines. You can either tape the fabric down or hold it down like I do. Just keep your fingers away from the needle. And with white thread still on top, because I want to match my fabric, we're going to stitch this out. Now, if you have a different color fabric for your background, you want to put the thread up on top that will match your background fabric. I chose to use the white with the silver glitter. All right, here we go. Tack down, and let's tack down this fabric. Perfect. So now you have a design choice to make. It's going to stitch out next the plaid quilting design that I've chosen for this. Now I'm going to go with a white thread on top because I want it to kind of blend in. I want the glitter to shine and I want the grill itself to do the shining. If you want to, you can go bolder, do a thread that'll stand out, but then it might conflict a little bit with the applique design itself. It's your design choice. So whatever color you have chosen for your background fabric, choose a color of thread for the top that you want to be your quilting design, whether you want it to blend in or you want it to stand out. Okay, I'm going to let mine blend into the fabric and let the little glitter fabric and the grill do the speaking, so to speak. So I'm going to leave my white thread on the top of the machine and let's sit back. It looks like this stitch out is about a 3-minute stitch out. So let's put the foot down and stitch out the quilting. Here we go. that turn out nice? I really like the way that that plaid works on there. Really do like that. Okay, so now we're going to get ready to select the color thread we want to put on the top of the machine that's going to match the fabric that's going to be the grill. So I have this cute patriotic star fabric on here. So I'm going to go ahead and put red thread on the top of my machine because that's going to serve as the placement line for the fabric and also the tack down for the fabric. So whatever color fabric you've chosen for your grill, go ahead and put that color thread in the top of your machine. Okay, you've got the color thread up on top that you need. All right, let's go ahead and put the foot down and let's stitch out the placement line for the grill. Here we go. Okay, so now you want to put down your fabric and make sure you cover the placement line. And if you have a directional fabric like I do, make sure you have it in the direction that you want. So I kind of want my stars to go like that. All right, and make sure that it covers all of the placement line. And we are good to go. So either tape down your fabric, you can hold it, or use your stylus if it gets too close, and let's use the same color thread up on top that matches your fabric, and let's tack down this applique fabric. This is going to be really cute. Okay, so now we're going to take the hoop off the machine and take it over to the table. And we want to trim away the excess fabric. And so it's going to be here, all the way around the outside, and then inside here. And that's where we're going to cut and trim away all this fabric. Okay, let's go do that. Okay, we're back at the machine, and I want to check my bobbin thread because we're going to get into some areas where we might do some satin stitches. So I still have a little bit of bobbin thread on it now, so I'm still okay, but I want to keep an eye on that. And probably after this next stitch, which is satin stitch, it looks like, handles and leg fill, I want to check how much bobbin is left after that to make sure that I don't run out. I don't like running out in satin stitches because it's a little bit more challenging to get it relined up where it doesn't have a bulge in your satin stitch and it looks nice. So I always just like to double check my bobbin thread before I go into a satin stitch area. That way I can avoid that problem as much as possible. All right, so it looks like we need to put black thread up on the top of the machine because it's going to do the legs of the grill and the handle. So let's put black thread up on top. Okay, you've got black thread up on top. All right, if you do, let's go ahead and put the foot down and let's stitch out the legs and the handle. Here we go. handle and the stand. Now if you look on here, I've got some white showing through. Now some of this may be bobbin thread pulling up, which to me is a little unusual because over here it's fine. But don't fret if this happens to you. Okay, first thing we're going to do is if my rest of my stitching comes out fine, which I'll know here in a second when I start the red satin stitch, then this is just an issue possibly with digitizing, or this is pulling up just on those stitches. So what I'm going to do on this one, I'm not going to fret. I have a little trick I'll show you when we go to the table when this block is all done, of how I can fill in with a colored marker these white lines, and this will all look nice and black and stitched. So I'm not going to worry about trying to redo it now, but I am going to watch it now when we switch over to here and do the red satin stitches and see if this continues or if it stops. Okay, I've had it in the past where I did it on one color, usually a black, and then it didn't do it on the next. It could also be that the brand of thread that you're using, in this case mine is a different brand for the black, might be pulling differently on the tension than what the other colors are. So we're going to take a look and see what happens with this red before I know whether I have to adjust my tension or not. Okay, but again, don't worry if this happens a little bit on you. We can fix that real quick, but if it becomes an ongoing problem, then you have to adjust your tension. So let's go ahead and, like I said, I want to check the bobbin down below. How we doing? It's getting a little low, so I really don't want to chance that on the red satin stitch that's coming up. It's only a 4-minute stitch out, but I am going to just put a new one in so I don't have any problems or issues. Okay, so now we're going to put red thread in the top of the machine and we'll get stitching. Okay, so I've got a full bobbin thread down below in white. I've got the red thread on the top of the machine. And let's go ahead and stitch out the satin stitch. This is a 4-minute stitch out. Now, if I do see there's an issue with the tension, I will stop it and I'll explain to you what we're going to do. If it looks okay, then we're going to keep going. All right, so let's put the foot down and stitch out the red satin stitch around the grill. That looks great. See, I didn't have any issue with the red satin stitch at all. So I know my tension is still spot on. So this was strictly a tension issue with that particular type of thread. So that is not uncommon. Like I said, I will show you at the end how I'm going to fix that up and you will never know that that happened. So we are good to go machine tension wise. Okay, so now I want to go ahead and I want to choose a slightly brighter red. This is going to be for what they call the grill rim. And this is a bigger spool, so I actually have a thread stand that I run this through off to the side of the machine. If you're using a thread stand, just a heads up, keep it away from that flywheel on the right side. You don't want any thread getting tangled up in that wheel. That would be a very disastrous issue. So keep thread away from that spinning wheel on the right, your hand wheel, okay? All right, so I'm going to put this thread up in my thread stand, way on the back side here. I'm going to run it through. Again, one thing on changing thread, always cut it at the top and bring your thread through the bottom. That's the direction that the thread is supposed to go. That's how the machine was built, that the thread goes one way. You don't want to pull it back up the other side. So cut it up on top and pull it towards you. All right, you ready? Let's go ahead and stitch out the grill rim. Here we go. I like how that contrasts the two different reds. That's cool. All right, so now let's put a silver or whatever color you would like the tire to be. This is going to be the tire fill. So I'm going to go, it looks like with a lighter silver, and then we're going to continually get darker. We're going to get a little bit, actually we can do the silver for the steam, the same color the next step. And then we're going to go for black again. So I'm going to choose kind of a dark silver gray here. It's not silver, but it's not a dark gray. It's kind of in the middle. I think that would be a great color for the tire. So I'm going to take the thread off the thread stand. Again, pull the thread towards you and out. And I'm going to put this silver dark gray thread up on top. And we're going to stitch out the tire fill. All right. You do the same on your machine. And here we go. Very nice, like that. So I think I'm going to do the steam in the same color. It shows a dark silver gray, so let's do it in the same. So I'm going to leave the same color thread up on top, and let's stitch out the steam. The next stitch is going to be the hubcap fill, which is right down here. Now I'm going to go with black, but I'm going to go a different black. This is another black I have that I'll run through the thread stand. So let's see if this one produces different results. If it does, let me know it's that thread. Pull this one toward me. And let's load up the black thread. And let's stitch out the hubcap. Ready? Make sure there's no loop on that thread. If you do get a loop, make sure you get that loop out, because if there is a loop up here, it could get stuck against this little free arm and it will break your needle in a heartbeat. So no loops. Here we go. Hubcap. Yes, it was definitely that black thread. So see, that thread had no problem, but this one, which I had used up here, did have a problem. So this one, luckily it's almost gone, but I think I will put this in the do not use pile and stick with this one. This one was just fine. That just shows you it's not necessarily a tension issue on your machine. It's due to the thread. How about that? Okay, so now I've still got black thread up on top. I want to leave that in there, and we're going to stitch out a little dot on the grill hinge, all right? One little dot right there at the hinge. All right, that looks good. So I'm going to take the black thread off the top of my machine. Make sure it stays away from that flywheel or hand wheel, as we call it. Pull that out. Now, the reason I'm doing that, and you're like, what? Wait, the next step requires black. I'm changing things up a little bit. The next step is to stitch out the fire up the grill, which they do show in black. Let's show you this way. Here, they show it with black, which is really cool. It's a red, white, and black block. It's really awesome. But this is a patriotic quilt, and I'm doing everything in red, white, and blue. So what if, just what if, I changed it up and did the words fire up the grill in blue? I think that would be amazing. Just something different. Mind you, it's going to stitch over the fabric. That'll look good. That also will look good. But this is a patriotic quilt. So I'm going to take away the black, and I'm going to do it in blue. Now, this blue I know works very well. 99% of the thread that I have from this starter collection that I got when I first started embroidery works beautifully on my dream machine, and I have no issues. But even with good thread, once in a while there's going to be a thread that your machine doesn't like. So just be aware of that issue like we talked about earlier. But if the thread doesn't work, don't use it. But then it might work fine on a different machine. You never know. But just keep that in mind that that's a possibility, and that's what happened on that one. So I really like this blue. This is a kind of more subtle blue. But in reality, you know what? I think this will show up better on this. I really do. Well, they're both really cool. I want to go with that one. I think that one's a little bit lighter, and I think will look really, really good because this is a little bit lighter of a red. It's not a deep dark like a Christmas red. It's a little bit lighter, and if I puddle it, which just means taking a bunch of thread and not getting it caught around a camera, and just kind of puddling it, you can kind of see what it's going to look like. And I think that would be a pretty color. So I'm going to put blue thread, this blue thread on the top of my machine. And then we're going to stitch out fire up the grill. Now this block is a 5-minute stitch out. And I usually don't leave my machine when I stitch stuff out, because I like to be here. If I hear a noise in the machine, I can stop things immediately. But especially when I'm doing lettering, I never leave my machine. I always want to be able to stop the machine to back things up that there's an issue. So overall, I don't leave my machine, but if you do happen to, especially if you're doing lettering, I would stick around and just watch it and make sure that you're here so that it's easier to stop and go back if you have an issue. You shouldn't have an issue, but just in case, usually when I have an issue, it's going to be on lettering. Okay, so we're ready to go. I've got the blue thread on top. Let's see what this looks like. Here we go. I love that in blue. Wow, I am happy I made that choice. Isn't that cool? Look how it sets it off. And this is a patriotic quilt. So red, white, and blue, I think is called for. So I love that. Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take the hoop off the machine. I'm going to take the whole thing over to the table. And I'm going to walk you through the next steps. Okay, meet you at the table. Okay, isn't this just adorable? Look at that. Isn't it cute? All right, so the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to take it out of the hoop. Here we go. Okay, get that out of the way. Okay, so the next thing I want to do is I want to put down a cutting surface. And I have this nice cutting surface right here. Okay, because we're going to end up cutting this in a few minutes. Get my ruler out. Okay, the first thing I want to do is I want to show you a trick of the embroidery trade. Remember when I talked to you about this black thread, and it was basically the thread because the tension was perfect on the rest of the stitch out? I have a tool, which I got on Amazon, which every embroiderer needs to have. This is the ultimate collection of Sharpie pens in all different colors. And it has all kinds of fine and ultra fine, neon and metallic. The fine and ultra fine is what you want from embroidery. You don't want your regular Sharpie pen that kind of has a thicker blunt point, so to speak, because you might accidentally hit part of the white that you don't want to hit. So I recommend either the fine or the ultra fine when you're working with stuff like this. And I actually really like the ultra fine because it gives you precision points. If you're doing something larger like this, it really doesn't matter. The fine is perfect for that. But this set has both. So you can literally go through, like say I need a pink, I have a fine and I have an ultra fine. So in every color you get one of each, which is great. And you can tell with black, I've already used the other one. I have to go put it back in my collection. I try to put my crayon colors back in my crayon box when I'm done, but once in a while I don't get back in here. And I try hard to do that. All right, so in this collection, this is a black ultra fine point. And look at that point. This is perfect. It's really hard to see. So that is what I'm going to do. So this is what I'm going to use to fix this black area. And I'm only going to go where I see the white threads. And I know this is really hard to see on camera, but I'm just literally covering just the white threads. All right, see magically, look at that stand. Look at that. Much better, huh? It hides those. Now watch what happens when I do the middle stand, okay? Again, I'm only doing what looks to be white threads. It's all you got to do. Okay. And then I'll come back if I'm missing any. And sometimes if they digitize, they do a really good job doing it, but there might be one little section that missed it and the fabric below is showing. With this pen, you can also fill that in. Just work slow and methodically. Look at how that right side looks much better already. I'm going to do the same thing. Okay, so it really works nicely. Just work slow and methodical. You're in no hurry and no rush because you don't want to get an accidental mark on your white fabric if you chose white like I did. Just very slow. Clear it on it and look at that stand. Isn't that much better? And the reason I recommend Sharpies is because they are permanent. You can use fabric markers too, but anything that is going to be a permanent that's not going to wash out if this is laundered is what you want. Okay, so I'm going to a couple more that I see that I want a little covered, and we're good. How about that? Ta-da! All fixed. Okay. So that is an embroiderer's trick of the trade. A bunch of crayons, just kidding, Sharpies. They look like crayon boxes, so they're so fun. but a big box of Sharpie markers that are fine and ultra fine, and all collection of colors that you will be able to fix boo-boos like this if they occur. This to me is something that every embroiderer needs to have in their toolbox. Okay, so now we are good. Doesn't that look great? A little bit of red fuzz. All fixed, all better, perfect. So now what we're going to do is we're going to square up this block. We're going to use a regular ruler this time, and we're going to square this up to 6.5 inches by 6.5 inches. That's the finished size of this block. So the first one is really easy. I just measure, let's go this way, to make sure this stitch line, the outer stitch line, which was the tack down for the fabric, should be at 6.5 inches. So there it is. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. It's spot on. So as long as you trim it up with that outside stitch line, you're going to be good. So the first one's easy. I'm just going to look for that outer stitch line. I'm going to go just a hair to the right. Can I see the stitch line is my motto. If I can see it through the ruler, then I'm good. I'm going to take my rotary cutter, and I will go ahead and I will trim that up. Okay. Cut this little one on the bottom here. Okay. Then I will turn around and do the opposite side. And this one I'm actually going to use my mat. I'm going to line it up. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. And it should also line up with that stitch line. And it does. I just go just a little bit. I'm lined up on my mat. I double check. I am lined up. Can I see the stitch line? I can just see it under the ruler, so I'm in position. And I trim that up. There we go. Get rid of this little guy down here. So we are 6.5 inches spot on this side. Now we're going to do the same thing over here. Again, I know that outer stitch line is at 6.5, so I put my ruler on it, and then I move it just a hair to the right. I'm going to go ahead and trim it. Okay. Then I use my mat. I go 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6.5. I do that. I know I don't need to do it because my brain can do the math, but I do it just as a mental thing. Call it OCD or something, but it confirms in my mind that double count that I am at 6.5. My mind can do the math, and then I go, triple check. So I'm good. So I can see the stitch line. I line it up with the mat, and I can just see the stitch line just underneath. I'm lined up. It's kind of like my third count, you know, in my brain. And it works. So if it works for you, use it. Whatever works to make sure you are double checking your measurements before you make that cut. Isn't that amazing? Look at that. You did it. You did it. This is the Fire Up the Grill block from Kimberbell's Red, White, and Bloom. And I'm telling you, I love the blue on that. It really makes it stand out, and to me, it makes it more patriotic. So I'm in love with that. So I hope you had as much fun today making this block as I did. Please stay tuned to this channel, Jolly Molly TV, for more fun videos on this project and many other projects coming up, Kimberbell and otherwise. So stay tuned, and I hope to see you soon. Please subscribe to my channel. It helps me do what I do, and I truly appreciate that. And don't forget to hit the bell notification and the like button, because YouTube likes to see if people are liking the video. If you have any comments or any suggestions or things you want to see also in the future, please put it in the comments below, and I'll see if I can work it into my schedule. Okay, until next time, have fun stitching. See you soon. Bye-bye.